Hey guys, what's up? It's Jimmy, and today we're taking a look at my top 10 favorite Kalos Pokemon. Pokemon X and Y introduced around 70 new creatures to the overall roster of species in the game. This is the least amount of Pokemon introduced in a generation so far, but this is actually beneficial to the players. This is probably one of the strongest sets of new Pokemon yet, because Game Freak didn't need to focus on filling up Pokedex spots. Since many of you have asked for it, I figured I'd make my list of my favorite Pokemon from the Kalos region. So, let's begin. Everyone loves lions. There's the Lion King, the Lion King, the Lion King, and I'm sure when we all saw Litleo for the first time, we all let out a collective Aww. What's really cool about Litleo and its evolutions though, is that Game Freak paid pretty close attention to actual lions when designing them. Male Pyroar looked like the stereotypical lion, but the female Pyroar has a more slender look, and is based off a lioness. The Pokedex even talks about their roles in nature. The females take care of their cubs and defend them from danger, while the male attack with their flames that can be hotter than 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm a big fan of the designs for these two. Both look very ferocious, and male Pyroar's mane looks like a giant explosion. It's so awesome. I love dogs, and I especially love Pokemon based on dogs. Lillipup was one of my favorite Pokemon in Generation 5, and I was happy to see that we're getting another dog-based Pokemon in Pokemon X and Y. Furfrou is a really interesting Pokemon because it paves the way for features we could see in future Pokemon games. Furfrou's main gimmick is that its intense fur can be styled into different designs. Some are cool, and some are, well, I guess they speak for themselves. But this only makes me think that future games will only expand on allowing more Pokemon to have different features than others. Maybe you could have a Pikachu with spiky hair, or a Piplup with a tiara. I mean, they kind of let you design your Pokemon in the musicals in black and white. Let's see more of that. Furfrou's ability Fur Coat halves the damage received from physical-based attacks, which is quite handy, at least for the early portions of the game. Furfrou were also used as guardians to the king in historical times in the Kalos region. They must be pretty dignified creatures if they have that position. I mean, they definitely look the part. From the very first Pokemon X and Y trailer, I was set on picking Chespin as my starter for the game. He reminded me of Oshawott, one of my favorite Pokemon, and at the time, he seemed like the underdog. Everyone was so excited about Fennekin, which in my opinion didn't fare too well when its final evolution hit, but I picked Chespin and I really liked it. I thought it had a really great design, but then I let it evolve into Quilladin, which isn't exactly the most visually appealing Pokemon of them all. It reminds me a lot of Pignite, and while I like the official artwork, I'm not a fan of its in-game model. Its eyes just look really creepy. Thankfully, when it evolves into Chesnaught, it becomes a powerful grass and fighting type Pokemon, which is one of my favorite type combos. It learns a lot of really cool attacks, like its signature move Spiky Shield, and was a really fun Pokemon to use in my in-game team. So good for you, Chespin. There is light at the end of the tunnel for your awkward stage. Don't worry, we all have them. I've been wanting a legitimate panda Pokemon for a really long time. Yeah, we got Spinda, but that never really cut it for me. Sorry, Spinda. Pancham is a fighting type panda that evolves into Pangoro and gains the dark typing. I know I've said this a lot and I'll continue to say it, but these Pokemon have really great designs. They have this simple badassery to them and it fits really well. And you gotta love those little leaves that they're always snacking on. I like these two because their typing is really unique. The only other fighting and dark type Pokemon are Scraggy and Scrafty, but I personally never got too attached to that duo. And here's a fun fact about Pangoro. It was not designed by Ken Sugimori, but rather Hitoshi Ariga. He also designed Inkay, Malamar, Honedge, Doublade, Aegislash, Tyrunt, Tyrantrum, Amura, and Aurorus. So now you know who to thank for this killer list of great Pokemon. When I originally saw the press release pictures for Flabébé and I saw how tiny this Pokemon actually was, I was skeptical of how strong it would actually be. Both Flabébé and Joltik are the same height, 4 inches tall, and at the time we didn't know if Flabébé would evolve or not. Joltik's defenses are rather low, so I wasn't sure if things would look too good for Flabébé, but thankfully I was proven wrong. Its evolutions Floette and Florges are phenomenal Pokemon. Florges has really great special attack and special defense, making it a valued member to my current competitive team. They're also part of the new Fairy typing, which is very fun to use. The Flabébé evolutionary family also has a really neat gimmick. There are 5 forms of Flabébé, each with different color flowers. 10 if you count shinies. This is really cool because you could have a different color Flabébé than your friend, making yours feel a bit more unique. Floette also has some importance to the main game story, but I won't spoil exactly what it does. Let's just say it will invoke many, many emotions. Back in Generation 1, Psychic types were broken as all hell, and Alakazam was one of the best Pokemon you could possibly use. His usability has continued throughout the years, and now he's better than ever. He levitates, he's got 5 spoons that will make Vanillite head for the hills, and the most amazing beard ever imaginable. Look at it. Just look at it. It's gorgeous. Mine is a female, and I can finally say I have my very own bearded lady. Not only is the design really great, but its stats also rise to give it a great boost in defeating opponents. Like all Mega Evolutions of course, but my point is it works really well for Alakazam, making him the big threat that he was back in Generation 1. Like I said, I started with Chespin at the beginning of the game, and I'm not saying I regret it at all, but wow. Froakie clearly got the best evolutions of all 3 starter Pokemon. They're ninja frogs. What could be better than that? Well, a lot of things. But my point is, these Pokemon rock. Froakie and its evolutions can have the hidden ability Protean, which changes the user's type to match the move it's using, meaning that your Pokemon can technically be whatever type you want if it can learn a move for that type. I managed to train up a Greninja with Protean, and it's probably one of my favorite Pokemon to use on my competitive team. It's so fun messing around with people, catching them off guard by suddenly being able to resist one of Greninja's natural weaknesses. It makes things really fresh and exciting every battle, and I love it. Not to mention it's got a really great speed stat, which only aids me in getting an upper hand over my opponent. Plus, Greninja uses its tongue as a scarf. Wonderful. I've always been a big fan of Pikachu, and the Pikachu-esque looking creatures that are found in other parts of the Pokemon world. There's just something about these fast and adorable Pokemon that really makes me like them, but none have really made me want to use them on my main team more than Dedenne. Dedenne is an electric fairy type hamster Pokemon, and my god, just look at this thing! It's Pokemon like this one that just make me wish they were real. But then I get a good look at Spiritomb, and I'm happy they're not. He's got some neat moves and a lot of speed that together pack a great punch, which helped me knock out a lot of my friends that underestimated his abilities based on his appearance. Using Dedenne has brought me a lot of fun time so far, and I'm excited to continue using it in the future. Several of my all-time favorite Pokemon got Mega Evolutions, including my #1 choice, Blaziken. I was ecstatic when I found out Blaziken would be able to Mega Evolve, and I was even more excited to find out that he'd receive the ability Speed Boost upon Mega Evolution. This can make Blaziken an unstoppable force, and for someone that loved the Pokemon a whole bunch to begin with, this is just another layer of icing on the cake. The color scheme of red and black, combined with the more aerodynamic look to fit his Speed Boost ability, work really well. I've already gone over why I love Blaziken itself, so I won't repeat myself too much here. Now, while Blaziken is my favorite Pokemon of all time, I feel that an actual Kalos Pokemon deserves the #1 spot on this list. So, let's move on. Words cannot describe how much I like these 2 Pokemon, but I'll try my best. Helioptile and Heliolisk are both electric and normal type Pokemon. They're based off the frill-necked lizard and the spotted salamander, which both have flaps or frills of skin that fly upward. Heliolisk and Helioptile tie in with the sun in a lot of ways, just like these 2 reptiles. The spotted salamander can perform photosynthesis when it flips up its frills. Helioptile can evolve with the Sunstone, and both Pokemon can have the ability Solar Power, which powers them up in sunlight. Helioptile looks like it has big floppy ears, which remind me a lot of my dog, and would you just look at that face? Helioptile also holds significance as the first Generation 6 Pokemon to appear in the anime. Pretty neat, huh? These two also helped me beat a friend of mine that just continued to wreck me over and over with his Mega Alakazam. I happily award Helioptile and Heliolisk the #1 spot on my list of my top 10 favorite Kalos Pokemon.